The Orlando Magic announced that they are waiving Bol Bol.
Growing up, was there someone that you may have looked at, you're like, you know what, I would like to play like him?
Definitely Kevin Durant. That's probably the person I watch the most, because for him, his size and his ability to be able to do everything at that.
This is very confusing. I mean, if this was any other season, I'd understand it, but the fact that the Orlando Magic made this decision after Bol Bol's most productive season to date is very confusing. Or is it? Well, we're gonna break everything down for you. Before we get to the content, ladies and gentlemen, I finally listened to you. A lot of you guys have been saying,
Mike, why the is your Snapchat name Monster Mean Mike?
So I did some digging, and finally we rebranded our Snapchat to Flight Mike Snap. Everything else was taken. We're going to be posting there fairly consistently, so make sure to give us a follow. And we're still running a huge giveaway, giving away $1,000 split between 5 subscribers that turn on our notifications on this channel. Winners are announced when we hit 800,000 subscribers, and now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. The NFL and NBA season are officially over, and I need something to hold me over until at least the NFL season comes back. So I've been playing prize picks for the WNBA and the MLB, and I've been fairly successful. It's a good way to get some extra action on games that I wouldn't really watch otherwise. I post my picks onto my Instagram story daily, and I've been hitting on a decent amount of them. And right now, when you use my promo code microphone, they'll double your deposit up to $100. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The 2019 NBA draft was a very, very fun NBA draft because it featured the greatest NBA prospect we've ever seen since LeBron James in the form of Zion Williamson. It featured the gun-toting or fake gun-toting John Morant at the number 2 overall pick. And it also featured one of the most unique talents that we have seen in quite some time, Bol Bol. A man that was built like Kristaps Porzingis, but had the game of a guard. Bol Bol mesmerized during his time in Oregon, and it made him one of the most unique prospects that we've seen in quite some time. Although he was very raw, teams were romanticizing the idea of taking Bol Bol, developing him the same way the Milwaukee Bucks were able to develop Giannis Antetokounmpo. But as a result of him being such a project, he fell all the way down to the 44th overall pick. To the perfect team for him, a team that is world-renowned for their ability to develop young talent, the Miami Heat. Unfortunately, he was traded on draft day to the Denver Nuggets. So a player that was originally supposed to be a top 10 pick slid all the way to number 44 and was traded to the Denver Nuggets. And unfortunately for Bol Bol, his career would be very, very tumultuous to say the least. He wouldn't play the entire 2019 season, as he would spend most of his time in the G League. He would make his debut in the NBA bubble in 2020, and man, when he did, believe me, you would know. If you logged in on Twitter, because, well, Threads wasn't a thing at the time, which, by the way, we made a Threads as well, if you guys want to check that out. It's in the About Me section of my Instagram. But you would know each and every time Bol Bol stepped onto the court. In the NBA bubble, Bol was able to drop 5 points and 4 rebounds in less than 11 minutes in a revenge game against the team that originally drafted him, the Miami Heat. Bol Bol would even get an opportunity to play in the playoffs, but it was in relatively irrelevant minutes. And this was the story of Bol Bol throughout his Denver Nuggets career. He got traded to a team that has playoff aspirations. We've seen this story multiple times. A player with a tremendous ceiling and a lot of upside getting selected to a team that buries him on the bench, that doesn't have time to develop him, and ends up not really progressing as a player. This ruins some young men's careers. If you get drafted to the wrong team, then there's nothing that could help you at that point. Your career could get screwed. My favorite example of this is Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, selected by the Cleveland Cavaliers, traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he did showcase his potential during the 2016 to 2017 season, averaging 24 points per game, shooting 36% from 3. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves felt like, okay, Wiggins is going into his 4th season, let's get Jimmy Butler. They traded for Jimmy Butler, and Wiggins started averaging 17.7 points per game. And eventually, people weren't necessarily calling him a bust, but he definitely definitely didn't live up to the billing of the greatest NBA prospect since LeBron James, which yes, it was bestowed upon him during the 2014 NBA draft. Right when the Minnesota Timberwolves were giving up on Wiggins, they traded him during the 2019 to 2020 season to the Golden State Warriors for a package based around D'Angelo Russell. And immediately, Andrew Wiggins went from a fringe all-star to a player that boosted his three-point percentage by 6%, one of the better two-way players in the NBA, and a player that was able to become an all-star. He currently shoots 40% from three. And although he doesn't have a LeBron James impact on the Golden State Warriors, you have to admit, he fits his role quite beautifully. And I guess that's a more extreme example. A month before the trade deadline, there was a trade in place to send Bol Bol to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for Rodney McGruder. The thing that sucks about this is Bol Bol failed his physical, and what would have been a perfect fit, a team that is 100% focused on developing its young talent that was taking on reclamation projects at the time, like Marvin Bagley, for instance, and it currently still is taking reclamation projects, by the way, in the form of James Wiseman, wasn't able to trade for Bol Bol. A few days later, he would get surgery on his right foot, and he would be out for the rest of the season. He would get traded to the Boston Celtics throughout this time, but it didn't really matter at that point because he would immediately get traded to the Orlando Magic shortly after, where he would experience the best season of his career. The Orlando Magic, unlike every other team that he was on before this, actually gave Bol Bol consistent minutes. Bol averaged 22 minutes per game, and in those 22 minutes per game, he was able to drop 9 points and 6 rebounds per game, in addition to an assist. He even started for 33 games, and he played in 70 games. Even furthermore, and I really don't want you guys to misinterpret what I'm about to say here, it's really important that you don't, because I'm not the type of YouTuber that's gonna come here and say,
this player is better than this player.
Unless if it's like obvious. You know, like clearly Luka Doncic is better than LeBron James. We don't have to get into this.
I don't know what the that was.
Jokes aside, when you look at Bol Bol's advanced statistics from this past year, he was negative on the offensive end, negative 1.8 on OBPM. His PER was a 14.4, his true shooting was a 60%. His value over replacement player was a 0.4. His DBPM was positive 0.9. His overall box plus minus was a negative 0.9, but what I'm trying to say here is his value over replacement player, the value that he provides to his team for the amount of minutes that he plays over a replacement player is higher than the number 2 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, Jalen Green. Again, this isn't me saying one player is better than the other, although Jalen Green is prone to this type of sus behavior. But Jalen Green, for comparison, in his rookie year, negative 0.5 OBPM, negative 2.4 DBPM, negative 2.9 overall BPM, and a negative 0.5 VORP. He was able to improve those numbers slightly in his sophomore season with a 0.5 OBPM, a negative 2.6 DBPM, and a negative 2.1 overall BPM, and a 0.0 VORP. Jalen Green is going to turn 22 in February of this year. Bol Bol is currently 23 years old. You get where I'm going with this. The right team could potentially get a very good player out of Bol Bol. Now, why am I saying this? Well, despite Bol Bol's career best season, despite him actually showing off his potential, the Orlando Magic have officially parted ways with Bol Bol. And believe me, NBA Twitter is going crazy over this. The very first question is, why would the Magic do such a thing? Bol Bol definitely had one of his best seasons. He rewarded the Magic once he got consistent minutes. Why are they letting him go? Well, this is once again a service to Bol Bol. He went to the Orlando Magic, who gave him the best chance of his career. He performed fairly well for his first full season as a developmental prospect. Bear in mind, you're not going to see peak Bol Bol for another 2 to 3 years if we're lucky, if he's on the right team that is very dedicated to his development. And this is assuming he develops like Giannis, which is very unfair, but like Giannis is kind of like the dream scenario for each and every developmental like player that comes out of the NBA draft that is extremely raw and lanky. In his first year in the NBA, he averaged 6.8 points per game, but he got 24 minutes per game back then. His second year in the NBA, he averaged 13 points per game in 31 minutes. Then his third season, he averaged 17 points in 35 minutes. But again, this is a team that was very devoted to developing Giannis. And Giannis got really good really quickly, way younger than Bol Bol's age, to be honest. But in this particular case, the reason why the Orlando Magic let go of him is there's way too much front court depth, and they knew they weren't going to be able to play him. They currently have Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., Franz Wagner, and Jet Howard. Bol Bol could have probably stayed with the Magic, but the Magic didn't have room for him. The issues with Bol is the fact that he still has a lot of developing to do, and he is very prone to injury. And that's usually the case with players of his size, and that's why people are so worried about Wemby as well, by the way. So what are the teams that are the most likely to vie for his services? Well, of course, we have to include these teams because, come on. The first team that I would like to see Bol Bol on is none other than the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, come on, could you imagine if Greg Popovich just had Bol Bol coming in for Victor Wembanyama off of the bench and was developing Wemby at the same time as Bol Bol? I don't want to say they're the same player, but I do think that they are trying to have similar games, and I do think it could work out wonderfully for Bol Bol. And I just think it'd be hilarious to have these two on the same team. I'm just going to be honest. And without a doubt, it would be one of the funniest things in NBA history, and the risk is relatively low. It'd be great for Victor Wembanyama while he's practicing too. But let's put the Spurs aside, even though that'd be hilarious. What other team could try to go for Bol Bol? Well, Bol Bol could also do something hilarious by signing with the OKC Thunder to team up with Alexi and Chet Holmgren and himself to create the NBA's first Twig 3. Could you imagine the length going up against this lineup? It would be hysterical. And also, the OKC Thunder are in the midst of a rebuild, so why not? Other teams that are being thrown out there are the Los Angeles Lakers, who I don't necessarily know how I feel about this. I want him to go somewhere that would be good for his development. You go to the Lakers, you're sitting at the end of the bench, you're not getting minutes unless Jackson Hayes can't play, I guess. The Lakers do need another big man behind Anthony Davis, but having two injury-prone big men to back up AD, I'm not a big fan of. Next is the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns are currently in the midst of acquiring a pretty impressive amount of talent for relatively low contracts. And then the final team would be the Dallas Mavericks, just another man to catch alley-oops from Luka Doncic. Either way, I feel like Bol Bol will get another chance in the NBA. It's not like the Magic cut him because he was bad. The Magic cut him because he didn't have room, and that makes a lot of sense. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Who do you think is the most likely to sign Bol Bol? Who do you want to sign Bol Bol? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.